I wonder where my
Can you?
headphones. Yeah, I
I
can
can
hear
hear you
you.
loud and clear.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just that with my headphones on, it's your voice is all distorted. But I want to have them on so I can clean.
Hmm.
But obviously that's not going to work. So hold on. Hello? Hello?
Hello. Can you
Okay.
hear me properly now?
Yeah, I can hear you properly now. That's
Oh, good.
that's really annoying that I can't listen to you on my headset, but
What do you think the problem is?
I don't know. I don't know what the problem is, but it's just annoying. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I have a few ideas, I suppose, which I think are new. I hope you'll agree to. I'll be streaming later with Khaled about um, getting good leaders and I suppose examining why they are so rubbish.
What getting good what?
About about good government. How do we get good leaders?
Oh, well, I don't
And
think Muslim leaders are very good. I think they're very like, I don't like Khalid as one of these people that blames all this violence, Muslim on Muslim violence on the CIA. Like, okay, well, what kind of people are you that you can be so easily bribed into killing each other?
well, I don't think he necessarily thinks Muslims are perfect because he's been on the receiving end of their violence. Because in Pakistan, they do kill Ahmadis. So I don't think he has a rose-tinted view of Muslim behavior. In fact, a lot of Muslims, don't trust other Muslims because they are known to be violent. Um, but the interesting thing about the Quran is how hard it is on hypocrites, because it does say hypocrites are whose final destination is hell is cursed by God, and you think it does superficially appear to be. Um, Harsher than um, maybe even the 36 capital offenses, since some people think that they're more likely to avoid committing the 36 capital offenses of the Torah than they are at avoiding hypocrisy. So, I mean,
Well,
that's
yeah,
an
but
interesting question.
yeah, that's what is a law worth if there's no punishment in this life for it? I mean, really, what is it worth?
Well, exactly. So I have my hypocrisy detector. So, my narrative is that Jews, Christians, and Muslims are hypocrites cursed by God, because if it weren't for them and their hypocrisy, we wouldn't have our problems. We would have solved them by now. But these rabbis won't rank the four Gentile religions. These Christians won't admit that Christianity is kaput because it's idolatry and blasphemy. And these Muslims won't admit that they have been disobeying chapter 18, verse 4 of the Quran since Muhammadan times. Because I keep asking these Muslims, when did you ever obey chapter 18, verse 4 of the Quran, which commands Muslims to admonish those who claim that God has begotten a son? And it seems they've never done it. It's not a record, or they can't tell me. They don't know. So, obviously
Well,
something's
it
wrong.
shows, just how, you know, well, I've already told you that, the Jehovah's Witnesses would just say they don't have the Holy Spirit, and they obviously don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They would just say God isn't working through them, because if God was working through them, it would be obvious, wouldn't it?
Well, yes. So the thing is, it's not working for these Jews, Christians, and Muslims because they only pretend to believe. They are hypocrites who say they believe in God. Obviously, if you're born a Jew, you don't want to offend mum and dad, so you go along with the thing, right? I mean, that includes Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists, or even um, children of atheist parents. So you don't want to offend mum and dad, and you don't want to offend, the extended family, so you go along with it, but you don't really believe. And I'm saying, here's my idea to test for hypocrisy, which is, to keep asking these people, well, you're supposed to believe in A, B, and C, so how come you're not doing it? You know? And I don't think the reasons that rabbis or Jews give me for not ranking the four Gentile religions are in any way clever at all. I don't accept their
Well,
validity.
I told you what it is. It's just like they're waiting for the real thing. They're not waiting for half-assed. They're waiting for an actual real Noahide. Not just, Islam is a religion, which automatically makes it not Noahide. I mean, it's ridiculous to ask them to, not fulfill their duty by selecting something that just is not proper.
Look, there are only these four Gentile religions that most people will have heard of. And I don't see that. Yeah, okay. So rabbis can say, well, actually the scripture is um, silent on idolatry and blasphemy. It doesn't execute people. And it's like, okay,
You're
so
going
it's not sure enough for you, but it's it's the Gentile religion that most resembles Judaism, even if it's not good enough for you. So that will have to do.
No, I don't. I wouldn't.
Okay, I know they don't want to do that because that they are so fixated on thinking that they're the only ones in the whole wide world in receipt of divine revelation. I mean, of course, they are invested in thinking that they're the only ones and nobody else. Or that, the Quran, God forbid, is better than the Torah. Because then they'll have to say, well, what have we been doing all this time
Well,
then?
it's
Well,
obviously not because the Quran allows idolatry. So, I mean,
no, no,
yes,
it
the
doesn't.
according to you, the Quran allows idolatry. I know according to some Muslims it doesn't, but according to you, it allows it. And so it's obviously an inferior revelation because it's going to allow something akin to murder to take place in society without any kind of repercussion.
The thing is, the Quran does warn against idolatry, and we
Warning, that's like
also
warn.
know that Muslims
Oh,
are
oh,
a
it
bit,
warns against murder. Oh, there's a warning against murder. Wow, I'm real impressed with that.
well, the Quran does support the death penalty.
Not for idolatry.
No, but that's is as it should be.
No, I don't.
No, because look, you don't get it about hidden idolatry.
That
You think
doesn't.
it's
No,
just
that's not. No. Oh, please, come on. What? The Islam doesn't control what goes on inside your mind. It only controls what's going on in your actions. And the same thing with the Noahide laws. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about worshiping an idol in your brain. If you actually worship it, it's the end. And Islam just doesn't take it to that conclusion, and so it's therefore obviously in the eyes of the Abrahamic religion a god and not acceptable, just not acceptable way of doing things.
Okay, I'm just saying Islam has to be the most no-hide religion, even if it's not good enough for Jews, because there's nothing else.
Well,
And,
see,
and
this
so
is
they
your
are
thing.
saying that they're the only ones in receipt of divine revelation, and that God would never give divine revelation to Gentiles. And I'm saying to them that if they hold on to this view, they are inciting anti Semitism against themselves and claiming that they are fit for the purpose of teaching the Noahide laws, which they are not, since so many rabbis refuse to engage with me about the Noahide laws.
Okay, they engage with government leaders
And,
about.
and
I
yeah,
didn't know.
and that they are hypocrites, and the Quran curses hypocrites.
They're not hypocrites if they're going to the government and trying to promote the Noahide laws. That's not hypocrisy.
Well, which governments?
Well, they went to the United States government and they went to the United Nations and they're talking to what's his name, Putin, and things like that. And they talk to Sarkozy and they do go to world leaders and discuss the Noahide laws with them, but they're just not doing it like let me get on CNN and say all of you people we're bringing the Noahide laws here and we're going to whip on pregnant whatever or unwed mothers and things like that.
No,
They're just
no, no, no. Rabbis are not required to do that.
I
They're
know
just
you're just upset they're not doing it your bellicose bull in a china shop way.
well. I'm saying that the least they can do if they care about teaching Gentiles about idolatry and blasphemy is to rank the four Gentile religions, which is the quickest way of getting the attention of Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. Because everybody's, all these religious groups would be interested to know about their ranking. And this is the quickest way of
Okay,
getting their
well
attention.
it would be so Islam still gets a family mark. So what if everybody fails? It's just everybody fails and then they're gonna say, well, I failed the least and oh wow, you got an F. Like real that's real great. People are really gonna be interested in that.
Well, yes, the Christians would be because they would be bottom of the class. And they need to know that because otherwise, Westerners won't have any kind of moral system at all. And this should concern you because if Western governments don't have an official moral system, it means that their corrupt and incompetent ruling classes can make up the rules as they go along. And that would affect you, taxpayers in the West, people,
Okay, well I think they
Westerners who
would
would be
rather
affected by the war in Ukraine and World War III and the collapse of the economy and all kinds of bad things that the
well
government might
they're
cause
not
to
they're
happen.
not going to rank the four Gentile religions and they already have their own plan. And the
Yeah,
idea
I
that
know, and I'm saying they should at least be prepared to argue about it, but they are running away because they know they have no answer. I mean,
that's the answer
I
is
did
that
get
the
one from a
answer is that
Dayan.
nobody wins. The answer is that nobody makes the mark. So we have our own mark, we have our own label. It's just they have their own label that they are slowly entering into the market, and you're saying, well, I know my label's not as good as yours, but just switch over because it's easier. And they're saying we don't want easy, we want real good wares, and if that takes a
No,
little
it's
bit
not real good if it can't be enforced and they don't have the moral authority to do it.
according to you,
Well, they
nobody.
don't. I mean, look at them.
Well, the thing is that if as long as a rabbi is following the religion, he's in a position to teach the Noahide laws.
Well, nobody has since Rabbi Schneerson. At least he
And,
said
oh,
something
there's been
about the
plenty of
Noahide
rabbis
laws,
teaching the
saying you
Noahide
have
laws.
to teach them by force is necessary, but by peaceful means if possible. At least he was making a strong statement, and they were just so wowed by what he said that they thought he was a messiah, and then he died.
The
But
thing is,
but the
there's
point is, you don't have to. It's like all they can do, all they have to do is say, look. there might be a problem with Islam because Islam doesn't execute idolaters and blasphemers, but maybe Gentiles don't want to be executed for idolatry and blasphemy, and particularly Americans who are so proud of their First Amendment. It would be un-American to start going round executing idolaters and
Well, that's what you do.
blasphemers. I
You
mean,
do it.
I'll write out a speech for them if they want.
You introduce
Actually, it'll
it
be quite fun.
slowly. You just slowly inculcate society into this kind of thinking, and it's just that they're willing to take a generation, and you're not.
Okay, but I'm saying in the meantime, people are dying, people are mentally ill. There are all kinds of, tragic lives about to begin, when it could be prevented, discouraged at social media posts giving their rabbinical ranking. And I'm saying hidden idolatry manifests itself through hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is not doing what you're supposed to do, giving irrational and irrelevant reasons, and they are guilty of that. And this means if God exists, that they will be uh, going to hell. And if they
I
shrug
think
their shoulders and say
they're
we don't
standing
care,
by their point.
then we can say, so you were just pretending. You don't even believe in God. You're just atheist,
They have
rabbis.
principles, Claire. It's called having a principle and not.
No, no, it's not. If they really had principles, they would be prepared to argue about it. But I know they're not,
They're not
because
arguing with
they know they
you,
are on
Claire.
a
They
sticky wicket.
Well, they're not arguing with you, but why should they argue with you when they have plenty of Muslim leaders who are on board with them? I think they want to talk to Muslim leaders. They don't want to talk
Do
to.
they? I mean, I'm not aware of them talking
Well,
to
you
any
just saw
Muslim
that. Of
leaders.
course, you just saw that letter that rabbi sent out to all of Islam, saying, we can work together. I think they would rather work with Muslim leaders than an agnostic.
Look, that rabbi is not an English-speaking rabbi.
So what? It was
Well,
translated.
I'm not. Nobody's gonna give a damn what he says. It's like,
Just because he doesn't
he
speak
he he
English,
he,
Claire,
he no he
you
he's
you Claire,
religious and he can't even speak English,
you
and
you
he's not
very
talking to
you
anyone.
have these opinions and you think that everyone thinks exactly like you do, and anyone who doesn't think exactly like you do, you accuse them of being either hypocrites or liars or.
Yes, yes, that's so
Well,
easy.
Claire, I don't think that's necessarily true. And so what if if an article is translated into English? You really think the whole world is going to say this is translated, so therefore I'm just going to totally ignore this?
No, what I'm saying is that if you want to communicate with uh, the most the biggest Satan of all, i.e., America, then you need somebody capable of addressing
But
Americans
he
in their
did.
own
You can address
language.
people in writing. You can address people in writing. Not everything needs to be a speech.
Oh, okay. So he's not doing anything anyway.
Yes, he
So
is
so he's
reaching out
saying,
to Islam. He's reaching out to Islam.
yes, I know. So there will be predictably rabbis who think, well, we should be on good terms with our Arab neighbors. But you see, the American empire doesn't want there to be peace between Arabs and Jews because they want to keep them fighting. They want Jews in Israel to fear for their lives and kill Arabs and, cause trouble in the Middle East. Because that is the whole point of Israel as an American colony. It's not there to be, to get on with the Arabs. It's there to show American power. Like, here's a piece of America in the middle of the Middle East. And maybe
Yes,
these
but
rabbis
this
who
is a
want to be friendly with Muslims are saying, we don't want that. We don't
this
want to
is a
die for the
different
American
topic.
empire or liberal democracy. You are breaking up a bit.
This is a different topic than than rabbis talking with Muslims. It doesn't matter what the United States is doing. Your contention is that the rabbis aren't reaching out when actually they are. And I mean, of course, everything is with you, it's about your timing, and they're not doing it the way you want them to do it. And so, therefore, it's wrong.
Yes, my timing is ASAP for the minimization of harm and suffering. And these rabbis who don't really know what they're doing, who can't speak English properly, are taking their time. And I'm hurrying them along because, well, lives are at stake.
Yes, but they would rather do it the right way and save lives than lead people astray into.
How is it leading? Okay, they may have these concerns, but they're not prepared to talk about it openly, which means they just want to
Not
say
with
their thing and
you.
they want to
Not with
ignore
you.
everyone
Not,
else.
they're not prepared to talk to me either, but I don't like say that, maybe they're not prepared to talk to me. Well, they're not prepared to talk to me for a different reason, but I definitely don't hold it up and say, well, they're this and they're that because they're not willing to talk to me. Like, maybe I'm just not important enough of a person for them to talk to. Have you ever considered that?
Well, I think you're important enough, but maybe they have you down as an anti-Semite and a troublemaker. So, have there been any questions you were asking them that they refused to answer?
Well, they refuse to talk to me in any sense.
I think Michael Schulman kind of.
No, but then as soon as he found out who I was, he cut off communication.
Okay, so maybe it's to do with not talking to sodomites, maybe that
No,
that
he
they're
no,
only
it was
allowed to talk to righteous Gentiles.
no. He knew that he knew. No, he was talking to me. He didn't know if I was a sodomite or not when I was emailing him. I didn't think it's that. It's he saw me on Adam Green. That's why he stopped talking to me
So what were you discussing?
on Adam Green, the Noahide laws.
Okay, but what were you discussing with Michael Schulman?
Um, um, uh, Hinduism and the Noahide laws.
So what was Schulman's position on Hinduism?
Basically, he said that you're not allowed to practice Shatuv, is what his position was.
Okay, so you have your answer from him, but some rabbis want to say that
No, but
Hinduism is
he
okay.
only spoke to me because he didn't know who I was, and then when he found out who I was, he did speak to me.
Okay, but I mean, was there a question you wanted to ask him?
I was asking him about Hinduism and Shatuv, and he said that Shatuv is not permissible.
Okay, so are you satisfied with his answer?
That's not an answer, like, that's not a discussion about the Noahide laws and, its implications. That was just one question.
Did you have further questions?
Yes, but he refused to answer anymore when he saw me on Adam Green.
Oh, right. Okay. And um, can you remember the questions you wanted to ask him that he didn't answer, wouldn't answer?
Well, on basically on whether or not punishments apply before or after the millennial age and millennium kingdom and things like that, and
Oh,
these.
you mean whether people are Gentiles would be executed for breaking the Noahide laws? Was that your question?
Yes, whether it takes place, is it in position prior to the arrival of the Messiah, and the answer is yes, but it's just not something he did.
He wanted to discuss.
What?
It wasn't something he wanted to discuss.
No, I just didn't get time to discuss it any further with him because he saw me on Adam Green and cut off communication.
Okay, but I am under the impression that rabbis don't want you to be asking them about, oh, does it mean you're going to execute us if we are found guilty of murder, etc.?
Well, I'm sure, yes. I'm sure they don't. Well, yes, but that doesn't. Well, Not all of them. There are rabbis who say that if somebody breaks the Noahide laws, you are to execute them, and that does take place prior to the Millennium Kingdom. But not all of them. Some of them are too careful for that, and I'm not saying that they wouldn't. They're eventually going to say this once they have enough power. But like maybe you should learn from them and not threaten to whip unwed parents prior to having the power to do it.
Well, I can only show that I mean business when I propose secular Koranism. I can't just say it's a nicey thing and nobody's going to be offended and nobody's lies will be offended. And because if I did, nobody would believe me. I mean, obviously, I'm saying things are so wrong. You have to change your political system. Oh, and your religion and your liberal values. And of course, the people are going to freak out. It's like, okay, but this is what I think is wrong. And therefore I expect them to say, well, come up with some kind of counter argument if they don't like it, not just, oh, we don't like it, we don't think it'll ever catch on, we're not going to talk about it anymore, to deprive it of the oxygen of publicity. So, I mean, I can imagine why rabbis would not want to discuss the penalty for Gentiles if they break the Noahide laws. A,
Not
because,
yet.
they probably don't know, and B, they don't want to upset Gentiles and stoke the furnace of anti-Semitism when
Well,
they
I don't.
must be
I don't
aware that
see
it's
how. I don't
rising.
see. I don't see how it's helping you so much to talk about whipping unwed parents. I mean, that's also a bit insane, and you know what I mean.
Well, it's unpopular, but at least I'm showing that I understand what the problem is, and people can, either agree or not. I mean, the people who don't agree are people, men with vested interests because they're having sex with women not married to them, and they have, or maybe they are themselves illegitimate offspring, or have illegitimate offspring. So or they're just afraid of offending Islamophobes. So, I mean, I have, it's not like I don't know and can't imagine why they wouldn't be talking to me. I already know their social and political reasons for not engaging. And of course, these nationalists or Islamophobes don't want to be saying, we're going to submit to secular Koranism. And I'm the only one with a, with a solution, and everybody else is just left with dreaming of their pogrom.
Mr. Pello, I put the StreamYard link unless in case you want to come on um, to discuss. Well,
But let
oh,
me tell you my roadmap. I haven't even got to my roadmap to secular Quranism. I keep hoping people will say, well, how are you going to make it happen? And nobody ever asks me that question. And when you're there, how are you, if you're ever in power, how are you going to, make everyone do this? Because they won't agree, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, here is how I'm going to control all the different religious and political groups in my one party theocracy. So, what I'll be doing is dividing. Okay, you already know about the Register of Jews. And guess what? I'll be having a register of Christians, of Muslims, of Hindus, of Buddhists, of, I guess, um, you know, cults like. Actually, I know the Scientologists don't want to be called a cult, but okay, the newer religions such as Nation of Islam and Scientology, Mormons would be under Christian because and Christians would be divided into subgroups of Trinitarians, Unitarians, Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh Day Adventists, and Mormons. So they can all have their group and their subgroup, and they'll, you know, at least they'll all be on a list. And then there will be a group for agnostics, atheists, and nihilists. And these are actually quite important groups, particularly as I will be in that group as an agnostic, and so will you, Vincent. So we will have to test the hypocrisy of all the different groups. And the quickest way of doing it is actually okay, for Jews, it's sort of, well, if you're caught committing any of the 36 capital offenses and you're on the register of Jews, you're going to be struck off. And um, and then, for Christians, they'll all be required to affirm their belief in the Trinity or whatever it is that they're supposed to believe in. And if they're not prepared to do it, then they fall out of that group, and either they choose to identify with another group, and then they'll have to choose to identify with another group. And then they'll just go into the agnostic, atheist, and nihilist group. And so this group will be quite important because I'm going to be in that group and leading the group, okay? And there will have to be a way of testing the sincerity of these atheists who claim to be principled. Because the problem with these atheists is that they all claim to, they don't have an agreed set of principles. So basically, you can't pin them down. They probably don't even have the principle of telling the truth or exercising logic, let alone adhering to the no-hide laws. So this is the minimum standard for these atheists, agnostics, and nihilists. And obviously, quite a few of them will be lying. They'll probably be, stealing and murdering and raping if they thought they'd get away with it. And there will be a way of testing them for general standards of honesty. And we've got quite a few of them in the chat, like Connox. I mean, do you think he's an honest person? Do you think he's moved by sound arguments? Do you think he has any principles?
Who?
Connox. I think he's the most unprincipled person around, and I'm sure that if it were acceptable, if it were mainstream to be sexist and racist and anti-Semitic, he'd be all those things. Because you can tell, can't you? I mean, he uses very dishonest arguments. He likes to abuse people and annoy people and tell lies about them. And, I mean, would you trust him? He doesn't keep his promises. He likes, he just likes showing off about, his job and his holidays and all kinds of things.
No, I don't trust him. I mean, it's basically like making fun of people, more so than actually having an argument.
Yeah, he's not capable of a constructive argument. He just likes coming here so he can mock people and imagine himself superior to, the low education, low information white nationalists that he likes to mock. So he's not a nice person at all, and he doesn't keep his promises. And we can easily imagine him being sexist and anti-Semitic and racist if he thought that would serve him in society and his career. And as for Mr. Pelu, although he's been very helpful to me in the past, it's like he doesn't really think fornication is a problem, because we know that woman was so shocked by him. saying, that he can have sex with any woman in the West, not his wife, because they're all just booty. Did you know he said that?
Yes.
So he's not particularly principled. But I think you are, and I am, and well, we can both be leaders of this quite important group, because there will be the biggest group in the West were secular Koranism to be adopted in our lifetimes. So this is my plan, and and recently I was talking about my circle of virtue. So I was saying we should all pair up with each other, and I mean, in a kind of buddy system. So we'll always have somebody to talk to about religion and politics if we can't find anyone in our immediate circle to discuss these things. I mean, I encourage everybody to do that. And also, within this pairing, we should get a third person to, and include them if we thought they satisfied our standards of being honest and reasonable. And so, uh, I mean, it could even be a kind of reference. People say, well, do you belong to any circle of virtue? I mean, Carnops just wouldn't be able to, join one because he's so abusive and intellectually dishonest. But other people might find somebody, capable of accepting them. So I think you're intellectually honest and you're capable of exercising logic. I mean, who do you think amongst the people we know who who might be admitted into our um, circle of virtue? Is there anyone you can think of?
Nobody that we know is going to get in.
No, they're such terrible people. I mean, we really are, bumping along at the bottom.
Well, yes, because we have
Because
new,
everybody is so unprincipled.
and we also have new ideas, and so new ideas are usually not talked about or don't attract mainstream. They attract marginal people, and so all these people that listen to us are marginal people, but we're marginal people, but we're high quality marginal people. These people are just like bottom feeding, you know, clowns that, I don't, I would expect marginal people to be a little bit more understanding because, they're marginal.
But I think they kind of take the battery hen mentality, which is basically I'm stuck here in a cage. The only way I can assert myself is to be mean to the other chickens around me. So they start pecking at each other. So I think that's how white nationalists behave. That's why they dox each other at the drop of a hat and tell lies about each other, and that's why they're so afraid of each other, because they just know how low and unprincipled all the others are, and they think the only way to survive is to be as low and unprincipled as the others. So it's a race to the bottom. But we're better than that. I mean, I was just thinking, the person that might be okay would be, it's like, but he's not okay. Stephen J. James is not okay. I think he wants to think he'd be okay, but he will cock. He will. I mean, he's already said he won't. Uh, he doesn't really care if his offspring is illegitimate, so I can't really include him. And mad people like Thomas Barton Rees just wouldn't be able, it would be just so disgraceful. to have clowns. I mean, but yeah, we can have a good think about who we might like. Be a third. And then the idea is to expand the circle so that, all in our circle would be people who are known to be intellectually honest, capable of exercising logic, and have principles.
Yeah.
So these little ideas would, maybe generate some interest in our, nihilist, in our society of atheists and nihilists. And also make the point that, there's no point say claiming you have a religion, but ignore all the principles or most of the important principles of your religion, and then say it doesn't matter, and then, pretend you're going to heaven. Because, I mean, Muslims are the worst of all. It's like, I guess hypocrisy is something that happens when people think, oh, I've got to pretend to follow these rules in order to seem respectable. But actually, I don't really follow them and I don't agree with them, but I have no choice because if I don't pretend, then nobody will marry me or give me a job, etc. That kind of thinking. But we kind of want it to be like that, you know, so that we can get to the position of saying, if you're not honest and reasonable, then we're not going to listen to you. We will dismiss any opinion you express. We're just going to dismiss you. So if you're a nihilist and you're proud that you don't have any principles, the way Connops doesn't, then we're just going to, put you at the bottom of the heap. And so I think this this proposed hierarchy will interest a lot of people. Well, it would interest me because I don't always want to know. Oh, which list will I be on, and how do I um, how do um, I mean, is it the right to is it the right one to join? But I mean, I have to put myself in the agnostic group because I have to be consistent with my principle that um, that secular Koranism is Sharia for non-Muslims. So I have to be leader of this group, and of course you will be leader of this group too, if you want, or co-leader, or I don't know, assistant leader, something like that. And then your role would be, to protect the rights of LGBT people. I think this could attract a lot of interest. I mean, really, what I need is someone who has shown his face, who is using his real name to say they support secular Koranism, and who isn't crazy, and who won't, fall by the wayside, in 3 days, like John Vance and the others who didn't stay the course. I mean, think of it this way, Vincent. I mean, I think really what you'd like is what I'd like. I'd like to be on the radio. I want to be paid for doing what I'm doing with you. And then there'll be callers, we can deal with their problems and talk about stuff to do with theology and religion and politics. I mean, wouldn't that be great? I mean, isn't that what you'd like?
Well, yes, but I mean, I'm not going to get my hopes up for that.
But you have to take a position because at the moment you're just well you're kind of semi-detached.
No, I'm doing it differently than you are. I'm not hurrying it along.
Well, I'm a political activist, and I think that the sooner people get my message, the better. I'm no spring chicken. I mean, it's just silly to wait until after I'm dead. I mean, it's like I'm capable of stringing sentences together and making arguments. I'd like to get things done. I don't see why you're holding back. You're no spring chicken either.
No, I'm not. But yeah. But my upbringing makes me a little bit different from you in that I'm not like mass glut thinking. And you know, I know that my message is unique.
Hmm.
I know my message is unique and different.
Well, I mean, you can. I don't know that it's this term fellow traveler. It doesn't mean that we have to, you know, travel to the ultimate destination together, but and there's nothing stopping you from doing your own thing later. But first, we must establish some kind of reputation together in order for us to capitalize on it later. Well, if Koranism were ever adopted, then I guess, you'd want to stay part of it. Because that would be where all the career opportunities would be, in government and in the media, if people want to talk about it. I mean, I have a few ideas for game shows and drama documentaries and, all kinds of things that, could be offshoots of the originating idea of secular Koranism. And it's intended to be fun. And, I think a radio show would be the ideal vehicle. I mean, it's something we already do anyway. So I sort of see you as being uh, invited by, Muslims. I think Muslims are kind of interested in gays because, they want to think that, the reformed, you know, LGBT people or, formerly promiscuous people. So I think you would be a person, well, a guest that they would like on, their show, and then you can show how well you do, the Quran and that sort of thing. And then you can go and talk about the Jews, about how they're not fit for the purpose. That God made them as chosen people, and they should retire and resign. And even if they did, they'd still be, following, being light unto nations. Because if they all converted to Islam, they would be saying, "Oh, well, everyone else should do the same too." And if God exists and He did reveal the Torah and the Quran, then He would be pleased with them. I think these are irresistible arguments.
Well, I don't know, Claire. I mean,
Well, think about it because look, I mean, obviously nothing's going to happen. We're just sort of, the two of us on our micro channels talking about this. But yes, you kind of need to make a proclamation, I suppose. or a declaration, since you're not the emperor or president.
One
But
second.
don't you think my
I'm listening. Just keep talking.
yeah, but I mean, don't you think that this idea of controlling people by dividing them into groups would help? Because okay, I think what people are scared of is that, oh, we're gonna be converted forcibly to Islam, and Claire's just really a Muslim pretending, you know, pretending to be an agnostic because because Takia allows her to lie to us. And I'm saying no, I'm going to join the agnostic group. But then the agnostics kind of have to show what is meant by submitting to truth and logic and adhering to principle. And the principles would be, the no-hide laws, but with no capital punishment.
Uh-huh.
And then we could be in discussions with the other groups, because I think it would create a lot of interest, because it's like Jews, all these Jews, but who's going to be leader? And it's like, yeah, we want you to have a leader. We want you to choose a leader. You Jews, you Christians, you Muslims, choose a leader. So you'll get a proper representation, and not all these sort of different rabbis saying, conflicting things. I mean, this is what we want, because at least the Christians have, the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury. And I think it's probably right that atheists, agnostics would be regularly tested for their ability to be intellectually honest and use sound arguments. And this would be a good example for the other groups. And if we do this, eventually people will get the idea that there is an objective way of determining who has won the argument.
What time is your thing with Khalid? How much longer do you have?
7,
Oh, it's at
7
7.
my time.
So it's 4 your time now.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know, Claire. I mean, you seem to have everything figured out, and nobody's going to tell you any better. So, but all I can tell you is that secular Koranism has not really gotten very far in the past 10 years. So maybe,
Oh, people
maybe,
have heard of it.
yes, well, I'm saying maybe it's not such a good, maybe the Jews have a better plan.
I just think people are scared, really. People like Jay who, pop up to mock me. And it's ridiculous the way, it's like, I know people like Jay and Connox, they would support secular Quranism in a heartbeat. They would do it if they thought, oh, by claiming to support secular Quranism, I'm going to raise my status and people will look up to me and respect me. They do it in a heartbeat. But what is currently the situation now is people, I guess most people are Islamophobes, so they're gonna, look at you funny and make their excuses and leave. And that's the only reason why they won't do it. But then, they keep coming up to mock me because I haven't made it safe for them. But how can I make it safe for them if the reaction of virtually all Western men, with you as a noble exception, is to dare me to make it safe for them? I mean, surely if they think the idea works in theory, then they should support it, whether or not they think it's going to, you know, be successful, in the next few days or whatever. It's like either something is the right thing to do and you do it, whether you think you're going to, be criticized or praised. You'll just do it for the principle of the thing. But nobody thinks like that anymore. I mean, obviously, in order for an idea to be implemented, it has to be sound in theory. And this is the only principle I'm trying to establish. It's like, well, have you got a better idea? Am I wrong that everything is going wrong because your ruling classes don't have principles? And neither do the people complaining about their corrupt and incompetent ruling classes because they don't have principles either. But how can anybody have principles if you don't have an official religion? And if that is a problem, why can't Americans begin a national conversation talking about whether their political problems is actually caused by not having an official, not having an official moral system? I mean, I've already explained the problem, you know, because if you let Congress just make up the rules as they go along, then of course they'll do that to suit themselves. But what you want is well, at least no hide laws to be observed,
Right.
and not well, yeah, and you want taxes to be low and crime to be low, and all sorts of things. But it doesn't say in the Constitution what the what you should do to criminals and what the tax rate should be and all that kind of thing. I mean, the only way I mean, it's the Quran, really.
Hmm. Okay, Claire, we've been going for an hour and I have to clean and I can't do it on my headset or I can't do it here because I won't be able to hear you. So I'm going
Okay,
to
well,
go.
okay. Thank you for staying with me.
Yes, sure. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.